Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company and the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber. This is my co-host, Zane Courtney.
Good morning, everybody. Pete, how you doing?
We're doing good, and we've got a lot to cover with you guys this morning. We have an unusual picture behind me. We promised you that we would post something new every podcast, and this one actually is an infrared picture. It is in northern Italy, Merano. And what's unusual about infrared is you see enormous detail. This one is shot at 850 nanometers, which essentially wipes out all the color content. What fascinates me, by the way, about infrared technology is that we as a human species have a fairly narrow sense bandwidth, and our vision is nowhere near what some other living organisms are able to perceive and see. Even insects, for example, will go into the infrared world. Think how cool it would be to be a predator. It's completely dark outside, and you're seeing in infrared, and you're able to see heat signatures. So that prey down below there is glowing red, even though it's pitch dark.
It's precisely like the movie.
Yes, yeah. So this particular picture, 850 nanometers, shot in Merano, Italy. And one of the other interesting things about IR photography is it really had a broad application during World War I. I did not know this. I researched it this morning. It turns out that because infrared technology provides such incredible detail, you can see every bush, every rock, every nook and cranny. They found it useful during World War I to find the ammunitions depot, for example, depots. By taking aerial shots of the battlefield. And so anyway, infrared technology, we'll have a few more of those. I'll also be bringing in some from a different wavelength infrared, which I had to do color correction in order to make the landscape look surreal. And they're pretty interesting shots.
I thought all you did was grayscale. This guy, I don't think you'd mentioned that this is just in the camera. This is all done purely by the sensor. Yeah. And it's just the way that the light is getting absorbed by that sensor. And
I got so fascinated with IR technology or photography that I actually took one of my DSLRs and converted it to infrared, which is kind of a quantum leap because you can never go back and take regular pictures anymore. You're always stuck, with either 850 nanometers or whatever you've converted it to.
It's an upgrade.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, interesting shots. Looks like we have a question already.
Well, good morning to Instagram from Neelaunch.co. Hello, what's up, guys? Neelaunch, I'm doing well.
By the way, all of you that have questions that you'd like to ask, we'll entertain them. If there are too many streaming in, we'll capture what we can. And we'd like to hear where you're from because our audience is generally interested in where in the world these questions are coming from.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited to get to see you guys on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I believe, is going to be up here. And the full experience is on YouTube. You can check out that photo behind us with our green screen that Pete just mentioned. If you go to YouTube, you can also subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when we go live.
Absolutely. I have a question here from YouTube, Jared Crano. He says, hey, team. Do you think EV insurance rates will be lower compared to ICE vehicles because of better CEBI, AI architecture being safer for passengers? Obviously, the higher MSRP on EVs versus ICE counterparts because of a better vehicle architecture. I think that the insurance companies are going to be slow to react to a decrease in their risk costs for obvious reasons. But I think it's inevitable because competition reigns, and if there is an insurance company that is lowering rates because of a decreased risk, the other ones are quickly going to catch on to that and try to maintain market share. From Ohio, by the way. Thank you, Jared.
And one more quick thing about that too is we were just talking about how at least most EVs in the United States up to this point, it's not true across China and some other parts of the world, but especially in the US, EVs are still technically a luxury vehicle, which do have higher insurance premiums. So as we continue to progress toward more consumer-friendly vehicles, we are going to see insurance rates that match up to that. But that's why you'll see higher insurance rates, even through, actually Rivian has their own insurance that they'll provide with their vehicles, and it's comparable to, I think, a Progressive plan or something like that.
And of course, another factor is your driving record.
Yes.
Which places you into a different risk pool. And of course, the value of the vehicle. And as these less expensive EVs start coming online, we should see the insurance rates eventually dip below the internal combustion engine vehicle rates.
Do you think that that'll be integrated with how Tesla scales your performance now if you're on the self-driving beta? And they might send that back to an insurance company?
There's an interesting issue there with the amount of data that is being collected with EVs, unlike anything that's ever happened with ICE vehicles. With ICE vehicles, Ford, GM, whoever sold that, or the dealer had no idea where you were, what you were doing, how many miles you drove until you brought it in for service. With these EVs that are in constant communication with a mothership, in the case of Tesla, basically the cards are nodes on a large network, and they know where everyone is, what they're doing, what speed they're going, how long they're staying at a particular restaurant, and with full self-driving and the type of data that's being collected about the driving environment, they can also make some correlation as to your driving skills. If you think about that, how many people did you cut off? So it's going to be interesting whether the manufacturers will begin to release information about the vehicles to companies like this that are very much concerned about driving habits and safety and those types of things and costs.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we'll get to see it more like a lot more freedom and less Brave New World, I think, with the amount of data available. From TikTok, SER, and a few digits there. Hello from Tibet.
Tibet.
I wonder what the EV scene is like in Tibet.
Well, it's, internet access. I picture Tibet, and I'm thinking that we're sitting up on some gigantic mountain somewhere. But welcome. User 908-525-7299530. Thank you for joining us. So I've got a part of an article here that it looks like Tesla is seeking to further expand its presence in the Chinese market. They want to create more value in China, and they call it the land full of vigor and vitality. These comments were made Tuesday last week by Tao Lin, who is the vice president of Tesla, and it was sent to the Global Times. And he was talking about the basic tone of expanding, opening up, saying that Tesla has been a beneficiary of China's open up drive over the past years. There's a symbiotic relationship here between the companies. Obviously, Tesla is very much interested in getting market share in one of the largest economies on the planet. At the same time, China is very interested in scavenging some really cool technology. And fortunately, Tesla was able to carve a plan that allowed them to remain autonomous, but yet operate within China. So let's hope that that continues. Do we have a question?
From YouTube, Bill Wood. I love the last podcast about EVs charging from the highway. Is there anyone working on that now? Anyone working on inductive coupling?
There is, and that question comes up in every podcast. I think, guys, social media guys, what we need to do is do the research and put a video together. And it's a valid question. Who's working on it? How far are they? And what are the basic concepts regarding this inductive coupling technology, which basically takes you out of connecting to anything? As we spoke last week about the Aptera concept, that's the one that has me most excited, where you have a self-contained vehicle that's actually harvesting energy from the sun and able to charge and go 40 miles without ever plugging in or recharging again to get another 40 miles. It just seems like that has to be the future.
Oh, for sure. Especially for something like an Aptera that's less of a road trip vehicle and more of an in-town car. But for all we know, that technology could expand into that kind of market for people. I go back and forth on the viability of EV charging and road trips and things like that. And inductive coupling has me really excited about the future of the viability of just doing a casual road trip in an EV, where now the road itself can charge as well as the sun. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to with that. And for now, I know, at least for the foreseeable future, you've got a good mix. Tesla's supercharging network makes road trips really viable. A lot of people seem to be enjoying Rivian road trips. But for now, gas cars are kind of number one for that market. So it's fun to see what companies like Aptera will be able to accomplish and provide for the future.
Sure. And that'll probably be a boilerplate for a lot of the other companies. Fiskars also has a solar cell type of process for their vehicle. We should probably mention them as well. So, what do you think about Tesla shares these days? Any comments, any feedback? When we were talking about Tesla shares about 2-3 weeks ago or so, I had mentioned, and bear in mind, this is not a financial program. We are not financial experts.
This is not financial advice.
We are amateur investors
Yes.
doing the best we can, trying to navigate these turbulent waters just like you are. But Tesla down to $200 a share, which is really the equivalent pre-split of around $600. I wasn't expecting it to go that low. I will say that. But it looks like Tesla so far this year has fallen 37%. And that's an even harder descent than the 22% decline in the Standard & Poor's 500 index. But after years of outsized gains, maybe they were due for a big correction, and this is it. My personal feeling, I am not going to let go of my Tesla shares. This is a company that has just enormous potential based on the production capacity that they currently have and that is coming online, and their willingness to continue to build and grow that capacity.
I agree. Yeah, I think now, especially with, we've seen the market do this before. It's had its dips, it's had its corrections and things like that. Even with some artificial inflation and things like that, with a company like Tesla providing so much value, I think that's a good call.
And of course, Elon being the eternal optimist, especially when it comes to anything regarding Tesla, none of this seems to have phased Elon. He predicted that Tesla would be worth as much as the two most valuable companies in the world, Apple Inc. and Saudi Arabian Oil Company. Combined, he says, both companies currently have a market capitalization topping $2 trillion. So Elon, I hope you're right. I'm going to keep my life savings.
I'll believe it where I see it. YouTube from Warren Raven. Just a statement here. Mica Energy's patent-pending tech can collect ambient radio frequency energy through a unique antenna, which can be able to charge any rechargeable battery from a distance. So they're turning radio frequency energy
Phenomenal.
into recharging power. That's fascinating. I'll have to look into that.
There's an interesting story in the 70s, and I'm one of the products of that era. There was a catalog called the Whole Earth Catalog, and they had an article in there that suggested that you can scavenge energy from high tension lines through inductive coupling. Essentially what it was, you've got these huge wires going up above you about 100 feet in the air that literally have anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million volts of electricity flowing through them. And whenever you have an exchange or you have electrons flowing through a medium like that, you have what's called a magnetic field.
Right.
All right. The basic principle of a transformer is to take two coils and to capture that magnetic field as it's going through air, cutting across both windings. So what they suggested you do is make yourself a large coil below the high tension line and scavenge this free energy that's normally just being dissipated, into the airwaves. Well, what was fascinating about this was apparently there were some companies that began to prosecute people that were doing this, not understanding that they really weren't violating anything because that inductive coupling or that magnetic field was there whether it was being scavenged or not.
Right.
So this reminds me of that. So what he's saying is scavenging some of the ambient radio frequency energy, which is basically the same thing. The high tension line that you saw there was 60 hertz in the United States at least. But there are other frequencies that we're constantly bombarded with that are invisible to us that can be scavenged and harvested. One prime example of that is when you're listening to your radio, you're scavenging those airwaves or those frequencies and then converting them into something audible.
And Pete?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier too, just about the charging in the road.
Yeah.
We do have a video out there that talks about that a little bit, but we can absolutely make another one as well. But it's the future of fleet vehicle, where we talk about the Dan Bus company over in Europe that is currently testing miles of that road charging now.
Good point. Yeah, that's right. There is a video, and it's called The Future of Fleet Charging or Fleet Vehicles, something like that, in our YouTube lineup. But because there is such interest, we will start working on another video.
Good stuff.
Okay.
From YouTube, Core Glass, do you think regulators will limit the max power on new EVs as they regularly start getting over 500 horsepower? Oh, they must be talking about, are they going to start limiting the fun factor of our EVs?
Power available? Boy, I sure hope not. Putting governors on it so that you're limited in the amount of 0 to 60 times, or the what you can do with your car. Who knows? If there was a public outcry because of an elevated risk with accidents and people getting killed, then it might prompt this type of legislation, which is reminiscent of the Nixon era when I love driving cars, and we actually had an imposed 55-mile-per-hour speed limit back then, and it was miserable. I mean, try to go cross country at 55 miles an hour, it takes you 3 times longer.
Oh, sure.
At least with the way I drive.
Oh yeah, no, anybody. And really that's the beauty of, at least having the option now, and if people do respond to it negatively, then the market can respond to that better with saying, hey,
Sure.
we're actually going to make a safer vehicle. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for some more independent legislation, if you will. Raj is back from TikTok. Hi, hello, everybody. Hey, Raj, good to see you again. From PC on YouTube, is Gruber Vehicle Company looking to expand beyond Arizona?
Get asked that question all the time. Eventually, yes. Right now, we're not scaling. We're so busy taking care of the business that is coming in and that is in-house. The second problem that we talk about often is there's a serious lack of manpower in this business. Even for the OEMs that really don't need the skill level that we need, and they are basically doing component or module swapping. In the independent world, we don't have the luxury of a large parts room, so we have to repair down a component level. Finding people that have that level of skills, can wrench, electronics, and software, it's a daunting project. So eventually, yes, as we grow our staff, we will continue to expand, and that will be into other territories. Staying back for a moment with this Tesla stock drop. The pundits are saying that there are a variety of reasons for this downturn, including increasing competition in the EV market. Well, that's fair. I mean, Tesla really, they ruled up until a few years ago when you started to see some of these other manufacturers actually produce product. But when you look at market share, you look at volume of vehicles. I mean, take a look at Lucid and Tesla, for example.
Right.
It's a drop in the bucket. So I'm not sure. I don't think I agree with EV competition. Then the negative press surrounding Tesla's full self-driving claims and actual performance. Most people don't buy full self-driving. It's very expensive.
It's like $10,000 for the beta.
14, I think.
Is it 14 now?
It's up there, yeah. So I'm not sure that is, although we do need to find reasons for this, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then finally, they feel that Elon's attention being diverted to his attempt to acquire Twitter has something to do with this. Honestly, I can tell you from experience, Elon is not running Tesla. He's not running SpaceX. There are a legion of talented people that are actually moving and shaking things behind the scenes. And you always have a figurehead out in front that gets all the credit, all of the visibility, all the glory. And that happens to be Elon. But I assure you that from an operational standpoint, Elon's contribution and involvement is minuscule. So he can go off and play with Twitter all he wants. I'm not sure it's going to affect the value of the stock, except for the concerns that he's going to sell a bunch of Tesla stock in order to acquire Twitter. And that could be a valid
Well,
concern.
isn't that what he did already? To some extent? Didn't he sell a bunch of stock?
I know that, I can't remember if he had already sold that. I know that was part of the negotiation But what had happened is that due to the kerfuffle, I saw that PC had mentioned that from back on YouTube. That Tesla is falling because of the Twitter kerfuffle. I know that the negotiations had already leaned that way into having to essentially sell all of his Tesla stock plus some over a period of, I wanted to say, 10, 15, well, it might be 10 years, maybe less than 10 years, which is still,
It's a fair enough.
it's a fair enough.
Time.
It's
Yeah,
enough because you got to remember, up to this point, all he's been at this point has just been the largest shareholder owner. So even though he gets to enter the boardroom and get to share his opinion, he gets to be the loudest voice. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's the driving voice. So you're absolutely correct that you have other competent people that are going to be able to take over for Tesla if Elon decides to go through with that. And hey, let him do it. He's already working on Starlink. He's already working on SpaceX.
Neuralink,
boring company. He's got his hands full. And so overall, what Elon does is Elon's business, and we get to be more excited about the EV industry, I think.
We spent a little time in one of the previous podcasts regarding the structure for the Twitter acquisition, and it turns out that Elon was not using the majority personal money for any of this. There were some banking partnerships that were participating in this, and he had investment lined up for this. The bottom line is, will this be a good thing for Twitter? Elon seems to feel that it is because he feels that he can run it better, and as he stated, he feels that Twitter has been languishing for some time. It also gives Elon control over one of the largest, social media voices on the planet, which who knows what a creative guy like Elon can do with that.
Yeah, and with the amount of opportunities to have a online presence in that sphere, different social media platforms popping up. Kanye West's acquisition of Parler, Trump's Truth Social, now Twitter going to Elon, as well as the existing networks like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's a time to be on the internet, that's for sure. It's definitely a wild west, and it will probably continue to be so for quite some time. From TikTok, from Duradiesel. We'll never be able to charge them fast enough for the fast-paced life. Now, this is a criticism that EVs have constantly been getting since basically day one, is that yes, you can fill up a gas car in 5 minutes and be back on the road with 400 miles of range. And an EV will take you half an hour with supercharging to go from 10% to 80% or something like that.
If you really look at the history and the trajectory of charging an electric vehicle, it has improved exponentially from where it used to be. Back in the day when you had a Tesla Roadster, for example, there were no charging stations to speak of. You had to go to a KOA campground and try to find a 30 to 50 amp outlet somewhere, and then wait hours literally to get a full charge, or an entire day. With supercharging, we're down to 20 minutes, half hour. There are other companies that are even improving that charge rate. And as we get into these other charging technologies, which between solar and inductive coupling, and like the other gentleman just mentioned in this podcast, scavenging radio waves, the need to plug in anywhere and spend any time probably will evaporate, especially if we have charging in the roads. While you're driving, you're maintaining your charge. So I see it going away. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, let's just hope it's not like a rainwater situation where people start regulating your collection on that.
For those of you that came in lately, what's on the green screen behind us? That is an infrared picture taken in northern Italy, Merano, Italy, near Bolzano, in the Alps. And my brother lives in southern Germany, so when we go to visit, one of our favorite places to go is to go into northern Italy. There's a valley there, and what infrared technology does for you is it gives you incredible detail. And that's what that black and white image is about. This was shot in 850 nanometer, which basically wipes out all the color and puts it into the infrared world 100%. In some of the other infrared technologies or photographies, you actually have some color, but it's false color. And then the photographers, end up playing with it and swapping colors around, which gets some really dramatic effects. And I'll be bringing in more of those because it looks like the infrared pictures are some of the most popular. Something else we mentioned earlier, this was actually in use in World War I. Now remember, photography hasn't been around forever. So, but by World War I, infrared technology was available, and they used to use this type of photography to find ammunitions depots on the ground, of course, aerial photography, because the detail is so much better with IR than it is with standard images.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, if you just see the green screen, then be sure to check us out on YouTube at Gruber Motor Company, and you'll be able to check out that image and any other image that we put up in the back there that Pete's been taking, and you'll get to kind of see what it is that we're talking about and get to experience the full show.
Absolutely.
From back on YouTube with Jared, back on Rivian Insurance, it's actually underwritten by legacy insurance carriers. Interesting, maybe this is a new partnership model where manufacturers can benefit by having an exclusive carrier.
Yeah,
there we go, a little package deal.
Yeah, now remember, Tesla was actually interested in getting into the insurance business. I'm not sure that ever grew any legs, but it would definitely make sense for a company that makes the EVs to be in the insurance business, especially considering they should have a decreased risk ratio.
Raj from TikTok, what's your opinion with one battery project with the 700 miles of range? They did a video with a Model S.
Our opinion? My opinion is that battery technology will continue to improve exponentially. And this is just one of the indications of that. 700 miles range, million-mile range is being talked about. The design goal is to capture more energy in a given space, yes, increasingly more so, and we're well on our way.
Yeah, Electric Viking just put out a video about NASA's breakthrough with some solid-state battery technology, which could potentially see its way into the consumer market here pretty soon. And solid-state's already been a huge point of interest with EVs because of exactly that. More energy in a less space. So hopefully we'll get to see a lot more of that in the coming years. And battery tech in general, as we had mentioned a little bit on the last show, really does need to be diversified and encouraged. I mean, there's so many different ways to store it. Being able to find those ways to maximize it, whether it's, I actually saw one, there's a sand battery also in development.
Really?
Yes, you can store, I forget how much exactly, but it was the ability to store electrical charge in essentially just a mound of sand. It's incredible.
There's plenty of that, yeah.
There is plenty of that. So we could see, tons of that kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to it, and I know we'd mentioned that a little bit before, but it might be something worth getting into on some future shows or videos.
It looks like we've got some feedback regarding the insurance issue from Instagram. Tesla Dave 86. He says, yes, Tesla has insurance in over 10 states. Thank you, Dave.
From YouTube Shorts from Diego Gaming YouTube, have y'all seen the Tesla Roadster in real life? Oh, you've seen them.
I've never seen them in real life. No. And I'm waiting for Franz von Holzhausen to drive one to Phoenix and take it to some of the local car shows and come visit our shop. So there's your invitation, Franz. That is a cool car, and we'd love to see it in our shop. It looks like I have another question linked in. Hagenberger, why are you wearing sunglasses?
That's a great question.
It's always a question that gets asked, and we promise them over and over again that one of these days we're going to do a video that reveals why Pete Gruber is always wearing sunglasses. Now, one thing I can reveal, sunglasses. Well, yeah, but in a studio setting, I think is what there. And when I do videos. One thing that I can reveal this morning is, why am I wearing a beanie that says Gruber Power Services? What does it say?
Gruber Companies.
Gruber Companies.
Established 1984, which is a snazzy beanie, by the way.
The fundamental reason is I have no hair. In Phoenix currently, we are getting into the colder seasons. So when I drive, and I drive convertibles mostly all the time, my head would freeze. So, and the studio is not really warm, so I am wearing my beanie and probably will the rest of the winter to stay nice and cozy and warm and keep the brain operating well.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of snow in Phoenix, so
yeah, it's 75 degrees out, right?
Yep.
75, which is cold for me. He's from Colorado. So.
That's why I'm in the t-shirt, exactly. Let's see. Pablo Damon wants to know on YouTube, is Gruber hiring qualified technicians?
You know, we are all the time. In fact, we have an interview today at 10 o'clock and for a lab technician. Yes, we are hiring anyone interested, and we're looking for people locally here, by the way. We're not large enough to be able to fly you in, put you up, and pay for your apartment for the first 6 months of working here. So we're looking for local talent. You can send your resume to ev@gruber.com, gruber.com.
There you go. Also from LinkedIn, Steve Ferguson also wants to know what we're hiding with our sunglasses. And we will reveal that maybe one day. From TikTok. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, one of my local guys here, great customer. And he said to me a couple of months ago, he says, Pete, he says, you got to get rid of those sunglasses. I said, well, there's a reason I wear them, but why do you feel so strongly? He says, because the eyes are the window to the soul. And if we can't see your eyes, you don't come off as genuine.
How do we know that we have a soul, Pete? How are they going to know?
That's a whole nother ethical question.
We made that joke on the last show. Someone was glad that the co-host is now slightly more animated, and I pointed out, for all we know, I could be a robot. So maybe that's why we wear sunglasses.
I am pleased to say that I did break my rule of silence, and I explained to him why I wear sunglasses, and he says, Pete, that makes perfect sense. I'm sorry I even asked. So anyway, once we do the video, we will reveal that reason, and who knows, it may go viral.
Yeah, pay attention. Not. It's coming soon.
Coming soon? All right, cool.
Jared Crano from YouTube again. Tesla does offer insurance. He has it on the Model 3. Is it exclusive to Tesla? Does it come directly from Tesla, or is it from a third party? I think that's what we wanted to know, is whether or not Tesla themselves are actually. Raj back on TikTok. I love Raj. He's what a guy. Do you see the evolution in EV kit conversion for ICE cars?
That's another question that comes up all the time.
I love EV conversions.
Yeah, of course it will happen. It's just that currently the people in this market or in this business are focused on making cars and getting some production and finding customers for those cars. It's a foregone conclusion that at some point in time companies will emerge that have a conversion path for somebody that wants to take their '69 Camaro and convert it to electric because they want to continue to drive it after the ICE ban occurs. And by the way, we've been predicting that for years. It's coming. At some point, this planet is going to get so messed up that governments are going to mandate or end the driving of fossil fuel burning cars because of the amount of carbon and the heat that they generate and the emissions. When that day comes, there are going to be a lot of collector cars that are going to be idled, and those people may want to continue to drive those cars. So it is coming as soon as it's economically feasible, however, because currently there is no product that we're aware of that is truly plug and play. There's still a lot of fabrication and fiddling and software, and until it becomes a plug and play process, and you have companies that for a flat rate will convert your vehicle so you don't have these surprises where you have to hand them your checkbook constantly and they keep on adding numbers to it. It will happen.
Yeah, I know that there are companies like that in San Diego that currently do that for some older cars. I think it's called Classic Cars San Diego. I'm probably wrong about that, but there are companies that do exactly like what you were saying with that. And it is a bit of a shame. I think we're all advocates for the diversity of energy, and especially electrical, because there's so much that we can do with that.
Sure.
And so getting to see more EV conversion kits, I mean, gosh, if I can make my car last forever by being able to plug that in, I would jump on that immediately. But in the economics of making that viable, you've got not only the actual material to make that happen, which does come at various prices, but you've also got the time to put into it. Most people that convert their own EVs put months, if not years, into making those conversions happen.
Long-term
and that's why they're mostly show cars, I mean, a lot of them get used, but they'll bring them out to shows and show them off because they did put so much love and time into them. So, part of that economics is also going to be time. How fast can you make that conversion happen? We'll see. And I'm excited to see where that goes because of things like solid-state technology, where you can just whip the engine out and you put yourself a motor and a couple solid-state batteries in there and you'll be good to go.
It's all about graphene.
All about...
Looks like we've got a YouTube story here from Corey White. He said, last summer I did a road trip in my Model 3 long range, and the trip, it is called the Alberta Loop in Canada, from Calgary to Canmore, Jasper, Edson, Edmonton, Red Deer, and back to Calgary. The trip is like 1130 kilometers, and he followed the speed limit the entire time. The total charging time was 37 minutes, 5 stops.
Nice.
The charging time wasn't enough to even stretch my legs. I love this thing.
You know, it's funny because people forget that the charging curves, well, I mean, EV owners know this well, but for people who don't own an EV, or for people who don't own an EV but still know about them, the charging curve is generally fastest between, I think it's 10% to 80%. That's the fastest charging curve. So good on you for being able to take advantage of that. And the Tesla supercharging network is well known to be able to provide that stability.
And it depends on how busy that supercharging station is too. If you're the only one, you're going to get a pretty rapid charge. If it's full, you know, you're going to be resource sharing some of that wattage.
There are some new technologies developing around that where some stations are shared, but then some of them are also, they have a cell per charger. So even if it's on, I mean, granted, if you have 2 ends of the charger, you will have to share some of that load, but it's not shared throughout all the chargers on that on that row. So it's kind of nice to be able not to have to think about, oh, if someone else is charging on the other end,
Sure.
You know, it's going to take me another 40 minutes.
So we have a picture to post there, guys, of a frozen door handle. Can we get that up there for our audience? Big problem. In some of the really cold areas of the world, the presenting door handles don't like to present when there's a layer of ice over the door handle. Tesla at one point actually put a heater into the charge port door, which is also troubling because if it's frozen over, you can't get your charge. Well, they're not putting heaters into the door handles, but apparently they have a smartphone application where the door will prop open based on your cell phone, a cell phone command. And that way the door handle remains intact, doesn't cause any damage, which sometimes I guess is the case when you've got it frozen and you're prying on it. And
I guess doors just can't be doors. But you know, we complain about this for a Tesla because of the flush door handles and things like that. But that's a problem that's always been in ICE vehicles. I mean, if you live in Michigan in the winter and you park next to the lake, you're going to have a bad time because your whole car's going to be frozen. So it is nice that you'll at least have the option to activate that from your cell phone. I think that's a great solution.
You know, some of the Tesla old-timers tell the story. I don't know whether this is legend or if this has completely or is completely true, but apparently the presenting door handle was an Elon Musk design for the Model S. And the engineers agonized over how to do this. You know, there's a lot of moving parts here. And then you've got the issue of will it pinch someone's hand? So you have sensors you have to embed. Well, by the time they got done, they had the equivalent of a 60s and 70s German engineered audio product. You remember the old dual turntables?
Yeah.
Oh, they were over-engineered to the hilt, right? And it cost $7,000 per car for the door handles.
Wow.
So try as they may, they tried to talk Elon out of it, and according to legend, he said, I want presenting door handles, make it happen. So they did. Well, it's one of the coolest features on the Model S if you think about it. You know, I mean, the thing actually pops open as you're walking towards your car, and most people unfamiliar with EVs, that's the first thing they focus on, right? I mean, it's definitely eye candy. But anyway, there are some pitfalls with that technology, especially if your car ices over, which is not uncommon where I used to live, where they had 4 seasons. I remember chipping away at my windshield. You get a 1/4-inch layer of ice on that, and you spent a part of your morning before you came to work trying to get rid of ice. I can only imagine what that's like with the door handles being coated with ice.
Yeah, right. From TikTok, from Patters Songsford, I think that's how you say that. Ford now advertised an electric replacement motor power plant. They drop into the existing space under the hood.
Like a crate engine.
Yeah, and actually they had started that with, when they announced the Mach-E, they had also advertised that you can buy that new motor wholesale from
Really?
Ford.
Really?
And they tested that, and to demonstrate that, they actually kitted out an F-100 as an EV.
Sure.
And it's a beautiful little truck.
It's a cool concept. My question there would be, where does that customer trying to fit that into their vehicle go for support? Do they go to the dealer? I don't think so. The dealers are still trying to get their mechanics up to speed on what EVs are. You know? Do they go to Ford? What? They have a hotline. They have a call center.
They got to go to Gruber Motor Company.
Got to go to Gruber Motor Company. That's
exactly.
it. Yes. That's another reason for us to scale.
See, we say that as a joke, but like honestly, that is the most important part of getting these more independent mechanics and EV repairsmen up to stuff, because we're going to have to deal with this a lot more often. And for someone that's going to bring in their DIY crate motor F-100 into somewhere like Gruber, it's imperative that they get the service that they deserve.
It will be aftermarket that actually makes something like this happen and is able to take an off-the-shelf product from an OEM and actually, fit it into vehicles and make that happen. I agree. So it looks like Tesla, Elon is dismissing the possibility of combining his companies under one single corporate umbrella. That's been suggested. He also is obviously overpaying to acquire Twitter at this point, but he feels that the long-term potential for this medium far surpasses its current value. So while he's excited about the Twitter situation, because he thinks he can do much more with it, he feels that it has languished for a long period of time and it has incredible potential. People have asked, well, are you going to combine all your companies? Well, his response to that was, I am not, where is it here? I just lost my place.
Let's see, I'm excited about the Twitter situation. Is it right there?
Now, when my screen goes flaky on me, it doesn't come back. Here we go. There he goes. He says, I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm not an investor. I'm an engineer and a manufacturing person and a technologist. We're not going to have a portfolio of investments or whatever. So at least for the time being, these Elon companies will remain independent and separate. I can't wait for SpaceX, by the way, to have an IPO.
I agree.
That would be a great one to get in on.
I want to be able to invest in some rockets.
Absolutely.
Put my money where my mouth is and get a self-landing rocket.
Hey, Pete, I've got a question for you on that topic.
Sure.
So, as a business owner, is there an advantage to having all of these companies separate versus together? And what do you do with yours?
Well, fair question. Like everything in life, there are upsides and downsides, and it depends on which one you want to accentuate or work on. Just to give you a brief example, we have 7 commercial buildings. Well, we started another company, which is Gruber Commercial Properties, because there's some serious tax advantages to doing leaseback options for these buildings. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and what the goal is. But yeah, there could be upsides and downsides of doing that very thing, and some people may weigh in and say it makes more sense combining them under one roof. All right, looks like we have a TikTok question. Ford now advertised, oh, I'm sorry, is that the one?
Yeah, I think that's the same one.
Okay.
Well, I want to kind of touch on this next story that you pulled up here about Mercedes.
We have just the headline on this one. Mercedes doubles its electric car sales in the third quarter. And which is pretty amazing because a Mercedes is a cornerstone in Germany. It's one of the premier car companies, has been for many decades. You know, you have VW, you've got Porsche, you've got Mercedes, and also Europe and the globe. But the fact that they have taken EVs this seriously is really commendable, and it looks like the rest of the car manufacturers are catching on that this is not going to go away. The adoption rate will continue to grow exponentially, and in order to remain relevant and survive, they've got to start downplaying their ICE production and moving into something far more future sustainable that is future-proof. And hats off to Mercedes for being able to pull that off.
And something that also, it gets me thinking about what we were talking about earlier, how most EVs are still within the luxury car segment, especially in the US, and less so in other parts of the world. Mercedes is still a luxury brand, even in Germany, where it's local. So it's incredible to me that we see these proportionate increases, even though auto sales in general were actually down over the last couple of years due to recent events. But of those auto sales, an exponential increase in electrical vehicle sales is what's so interesting to me, because people are still willing to go out of their way and get an electrified car as opposed to some, $25,000 or less gas car.
Right.
So it's a very interesting market trend. I think that we should definitely keep a finger on the pulse on. And for anybody watching, do the same, because we might see just this absolute demand rise in the future. And it's also worth checking on Tesla for that, because it goes to show that this is where the market's heading. And it's not because it's demanded of us. It's because it's genuinely a great technology, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Now, one of our viewers is actually weighing in on this topic. It's Raj again, and he says, Mercedes EVs have no frunk.
Oh, game over. Yes, out of the market.
We actually went to a car show here last year, and one of the attendees had a Tesla Model S, and he actually had, believe it or not, opened his frunk. He had a cactus garden in the front of his car, live, producing growing cactus. So
The things that people are doing. You've got the submarine Model S. You now have a cactus garden Model S. You've got Rich Rebuilds who just turned it into an ICE vehicle,
Right.
because you have the space.
it really does say, though, there's way too much room in an EV.
It's so
You
funny.
take all that stuff out, and what are you going to do with all that room?
I do love, someone pointed this out, it might have been a Monroe Live video, but for the F-150 Lightning, how it has the largest frunk available in a commercial vehicle right now. You do have an ample amount of covered storage space, and then you've also got the truck bed, which is an uncovered storage space. So you've got a lot of good options there.
Do we let our TikTok viewer?
Yes,
get some
good day,
lineup?
good people. Not a question, but thank you again for taking the time to reach out to us. As always, to our distinguished gentleman, this guy farted. We appreciate your support, man. That's a great name.
You're very welcome.
All right, guys, just so you know, we're at 52 minutes.
52 minutes? All right. Got one more news item here. It looks like Super Bowl 58. And by the way, I had to look this up. I was never any good in high school with Roman numerals. The V's and the X's and the I's.
We moved
and,
past it. We're on the Gregorian now.
And they used to put this crap on tests, which
Yeah.
then you instead of getting your 100%, you would get something, well, I would get something less. I had to look it up. I'm embarrassed. But it's Super Bowl 58 with a bunch of X's, V's, and I's, all right? It's going to be in Vegas in 2024, February, actually. And the goal is to get a portion of the Vegas loop built by the Boring Company. A 34-mile tunnel network with at least 55 stations when it's done, including the Allegiant Stadium, Harry Reid International Airport, University of Las Vegas, and various Las Vegas Strip resorts, and of course downtown Vegas locations. This underground network of tunnels will use a fleet of Teslas to transport people from point to point. So, Boring president, not boring as in, well, you know where I'm going with this.
I'm
the
sure he's a
company.
very energetic guy.
Yeah, very vendor. Steve Davis said this year that he hoped the work on the Las Vegas Loop would begin sometime in 2023. He expects 5 to 10 stations will come online within the first 6 months of construction, which means that Super Bowl 58 attendees may be able to zip around underground much quicker than trying to fight traffic during this event. That's going to be a huge event, they say. The Super Bowl in Vegas will be the most economically successful weekend in Las Vegas history, drawing tens of thousands of people to the area for a week of big game. The Super Bowl economic impact, is around $500 million to the state of Nevada.
Half a million. Oh, sorry, half billion, 500 million.
Yeah.
Nope, I misread that.
And it will lead to thousands of jobs and opportunities for small and minority-owned businesses. So we're looking forward to seeing if we can actually get some of this activity going in Las Vegas and see a boring tunnel.
We love nothing like a good boring tunnel. These are the guys who revolutionized just a regular brick.
All right. So it looks like TikTok, this guy farted, confessed. He said, I changed my name so I could troll and be underestimated by all.
Diabolical.
Yeah, very.
He's probably a genius.
Hey, Pete,
Yes.
just as in our closing here too, to let TikTok know, make sure you inform them that we have ordered some new equipment to increase the TikTok experience.
Ooh.
Absolutely. You know,
I didn't know
we,
that.
we get thousands of TikTok viewers, and although it's been declining somewhat because what they see is a green screen behind us. They don't see the cool pictures. But like Jesse pointed out, they came to me again last week. We need more money. We need more, we need to increase the budget. And I ended up buying a bunch more stuff to improve the experience for our TikTok viewers. So you not only get better clarity in our images here, but you get to see the green screen picture behind us. So stay tuned, and we love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we want to leave no one unloved.
Right.
We're here for all you guys. So thank you again, everybody who gets to join us on TikTok, Instagram. Where else? We go LinkedIn. Thank you all so much.
Facebook, yeah, man, it's growing. Oh, yeah, that's right. LinkedIn was our most recent one.
Sure is.
We didn't get any LinkedIn questions this
Yeah, we
time.
did.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we got a few.
Okay.
Just a few of them, yeah.
Well, welcome again, and our next podcast is Tuesday next week at 8:30 a.m. Again, Thursday is the following podcast next week. We will be releasing a cool video this week, and this one is going to be kind of controversial. I'll give you a little bit of information about it. Beware when you're buying an EV at auction, because the rules for ICE vehicles and EVs are quite a bit different in terms of your risks when it comes to buying an EV, and we're going to show you a buyer that really got shortchanged in a big way with what appears up front to be no recourse, which eventually will be because he's getting an attorney.
There we go.
So it looks like we have one final question.
One quick one here. What is the forecast for the evolution of the lithium battery, or is there already more sustainable replacement? It's this guy farted, Lee Garcia. I think that's going to be a whole video and podcast by itself.
Yeah, it's a whole nother podcast. The short answer is yes. There are things being worked on that are well beyond current mass cell lithium-ion cylindrical cells. And it's going to change the whole EV adoption program. So anyway, join us again. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week.